The stock market had a damn good year in 2023 with over 24% growth in the S&P 500. This defied nearly everyone's predictions, with most expecting 2023 to be the year of doom and gloom for stocks. And if we look at the predictions from 10 Wall Street top dogs for the S&P, we can see they were all wrong, and most were very wrong, with 6 of the 10 predicting losses. When in fact, to their surprise and to our gain, 2023 turned out to be the year of double-digit growth. However, that was last year. It's 2024 now, and the million-dollar question is, what can we expect this year? Human psychology will probably tell us that it's going to be a bad year, as our brain tends to play a little trick and make us worry that something bad always follows something good. This is why if you scroll through investing accounts on Twitter recently, you'll likely be bombarded by fearmongers shouting that 2024 will be the year everything crashes. It's going to be fire, get out now. However, in this video, we'll be tossing aside Twitter rants and focusing on what historical patterns and economic indicators suggest lie ahead for the stock market. And you'll be glad to know that they paint a very different story to those on Twitter. Before we dive into that, I need to put a quick disclaimer that although I'm not a Twitter ranter, I'm also not a financial advisor. So please take all this information with a pinch of salt. And if you're new here, I'm Alex, a management consultant by day, and on this channel we like to talk about all things personal finance with a particular focus on how to grow your money. We provide new videos every week, but for this video, let's get into it, and the best place to start is looking at what history suggests will happen this year. As if history tells us anything, it lets us know that stuff tends to happen again and again in cycles. So let's take a look at what happened in similar cycles in history to 2024. And let's start by looking at what tends to happen with the stock market the year after a very good growth year like we had in 2023. And let's put the definition of a good growth year as plus 10% returns. In this case, history unfortunately shows that sometimes very good growth years are followed by bad years, defined as negative return years. We can see this has happened on 16 occasions since 1928 and most recently happened in 2021. However, history also shows that positive growth years tend to happen more often than not after a very good stock market year. And what's most interesting is that throughout history, many double-digit growth years were followed up by another double-digit growth year. And this graph shows that in 6 of those occasions, there was more than 3 years of back-to-back double-digit growth, suggesting high growth years tend to come in clusters. And if we dig into the specific events around these clusters, there tends to be a significant innovation at the start of the cluster period. For example, in the 90s, there was the widespread adoption of the internet, the World Wide Web, and this led to 20% plus growth years in that period. All of this provides a good sign for 2024, as many may point to AI, artificial intelligence, as the next big innovation, and suggest that this could provide impetus for a positive growth period in the market. So overall, history suggests that a good year in the stock market is likely to be followed up by another good year in the stock market. However, this scenario has been quite broad, so let's fine-tune it and make it more specific, more relatable to 2024. And let's do this by looking at what happens after the first positive year of returns after a loss the previous year, given that 2023 was the first positive year after a loss in 2022. Here, history is even more on our side, as it shows that since 1957 for the S&P 500, the first positive year after a loss has always been followed by another positive year. It has a 100% strike rate based on the 11 occasions since 1957, and the average gain during these occasions is a very positive 15.5% too. However, this scenario and the previous scenario still doesn't consider one key factor which will happen this year in the US presidential election. So let's take a look at what happens in the stock market during election years. The good news is that stocks tend to climb in election years, with 19 of the 23 election years providing positive stock market performance at an average gain of 11.28%. Interestingly, the performance tends to be better when a Republican becomes president, with an average 15.3% growth during the years a Republican gets elected, compared to an average of 7.6% growth in the years a Democrat gets elected as president. This may be a good sign if you think a Republican candidate will become president, and the Republican candidate looks like it could be Donald Trump at the moment. However, there's a big hurdle here for Trump to overcome, in that he'll need to get himself out of a tough spot with the law if he wants to become president. And even if he does become president, I'm not sure if historical data will be a good predictor here anyway, as Trump is no usual president. Who knows what he will do and what impact it will have on the stock market. If we remember his famous first 100 days in office last time out, he signed executive orders to do some crazy things, from huge travel bans to promising to build a wall on the Mexican border. So history is probably not a good predictor of what will happen if Trump gets elected. And more generally, past performance alone can't predict future results. So many factors are at play, which makes it extremely difficult to predict what will happen during any given year for the stock market. We saw that with the 2023 predictions at the start of the video, where nearly everyone got it wrong. And the guys making these predictions are meant to be the experts, so what chance do we have as non-experts? Nevertheless, what we can do is look at the key factors at play this year and how these could influence the stock market. So that's going to be the last part of this video, in looking at the specific factors at play this year and how these could influence the stock market returns. The consensus from most analysts is that stock market returns for this year are largely dependent on whether the Federal Reserve can engineer a soft landing. And by this we mean whether the Federal Reserve can keep interest rates high for long enough to slow the economy and reduce inflation without causing a recession. And then whether the Federal Reserve can reduce interest rates when inflation is under control to spur growth in the economy again. This sounds easy enough on paper, but plenty of factors need to fall into place to make this happen. The main factor is that inflation needs to fall sufficiently to allow the Fed to cut interest rates. Similarly, the economy needs to remain resilient like it has, despite the high interest rate environment making this extremely difficult. And the economy needs to avoid going into recession before rate cuts happen. If these factors hold, I tend to agree with the consensus that we'll have a good year for the stock market. At the moment, it looks like inflation is heading in the right direction, as we've gone from a peak rate above 10% to a 3.1% figure at the time of recording. However, there's still plenty of work to do to get to the 2% Federal Reserve target rate of inflation, as inflation has been quite sticky at the 3% mark over recent months. The good news is that the economy has remained resilient, with unemployment figures holding strong despite the high interest rate environment. Of course, all these factors could change, and in my monthly portfolio updates, we follow how these factors impact the stock market month on month. So check out my most recent portfolio update if this is of interest to you. But in summary for this video, although history suggests the odds are in our favour, plenty of factors need to fall into place to make 2024 a good year for stock market returns. And who knows, a left field event could happen which majorly impacts the stock market. We just can't predict some things in the future. Ultimately, myself as a long-term investor, I'm not too worried about what happens in single years in the stock market, as I'm more focused on what happens in the long term, 10 plus years, and the trends associated with that. And if you want to invest in 2024 with a long-term mindset, I have a video to do so around here. But for this video, thanks for watching,